Hello,
Hello.
everyone. It's so great being here today. How's everyone doing? By the way, this is going to be a highly interactive session, so I'm going to love some thumbs up, some love, some unmuting yourself while you want to participate. Like, this is the time. There you go. Thank you. This is the time that we are going to be interactive, and we're going to really start working on our soft skills together. So it's very, very exciting for me to be here with you today. My name is, as mentioned, my name is Ana Sofia Barrows. I am a senior consultant for equity, diversity, and inclusion at Intact Financial Corporation. I'm also a faculty lecturer at the Rodman School of Management, where I teach the undergraduate course Leading Across Differences, and I teach for Rodman executive programs the course Inclusion by Design. So as you can see, a lot of my work is really grounded in equity, diversity, and inclusion work, but I actually was not originally trained as an equity, diversity, and inclusion professional. I actually transitioned into this career. I studied medical physics. My focus in my career was focused on radiation therapy and modeling of radiation therapies for cancer treatment. And then while I was in physics, I realized that we needed a lot more work and more empowerment towards bringing equity deserving groups into sciences. So bringing more women, bringing more persons of color, persons with disabilities, and more people in all the intersections. So celebrate more the diversity in the sciences. And I transitioned into working in equity, diversity, and inclusion work. So I can tell you that as someone who trained as a scientist, my hard skills from science have been so beneficial in my career, having the ability to approach things from an evidence-based perspective and with an evidence-based lens, being able to do research, being able to figure things out and problem solve were some of the great things that I got from my science degree. But in reality, my soft skills was what helped me really transition into a field that is so different than physics, working a lot with folks who do organizational development and human resources and organizational strategy, which are not always the things that we learn in a science degree. But I would love to share with you what are some of the things that I learned along the way to really help me network and work with folks from the community, both within the science community and outside of the science community. And hopefully some of my experience can help you develop those soft skills as well for you throughout as you're starting your careers. I do have to give a shout out to Isabella. Isabella was actually the one that helped me draft this fantastic slide deck. So all of the design and everything's all coming from her. So freaking professional. I was so excited when I saw it. So lovely. I feel like you're getting less of a corporate vision that I usually bring. I usually bring very sterile slide decks, and this one was a lot nicer. So I was very excited for that. So now, before I get myself started, I want to hear from you. What is bringing you joy today? What is one thing that is bringing you joy today?
I'm gonna get things started because
there you
usually,
go.
I'm gonna get things started. What brings me joy today is the fact that we have you here in the program. To be honest, I'm very excited about that, and also the fact that we have this program happening. This is the 8th year that we have the program running, and we almost gave it up, and now we're still going, even though through the pandemic, even though through no funding and all that stuff, we still have the program happen. And the fact that, I mean, I have so many things to be grateful for and to be excited about, but and everybody showing up and they participate is like super exciting. That's what brings me joy. It makes me want to do more work.
Exactly. And I have to say, it's so exciting to have all of you here today and the work that Her Evolution has been doing. Like, I remember I used to work for Dr. Imogen Co. back in 2015, and I remember seeing Her Evolution's work and seeing the impact that it had in youth and future scientists, right? So it's so great. I'm always very grateful for champions like yourself who bring this work and advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in STEM overall. So thank you, Ina.
Thank you, Ana Sofia. I think I see a comment here. Somebody said there's no school. This program doesn't feel like school. Yeah, no school.
That's fun. Yeah, that's always fun. That's always fun. So now I would love to hear from Allison, from Kiara, from Michelle, from Devin. I want to hear from all of you. What is bringing you joy today? Okay, we're sad today. That's
You guys
fine.
can
We'll
put
make
it on,
fun.
yeah, you can add that to the chat if you don't feel comfortable.
Not having any
unmuting.
homework. Oh, we
Yeah.
all love those days with no homework. I'm like, I'm an adult. I'm still in school, went back to school this pandemic. So I feel you when there are days with no homework. Awesome. 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 So I'm not going to give you any homework today, but we will have some interaction. I love there was time to meditate. That's fantastic. Meditation is so key, and self-care is one of the things that oftentimes we forget to really care about. And the reality is that without self-care, there's no way that we can keep running and doing all the fantastic work that we do. So great. I love hearing that there was time to meditate. Awesome. So now, before I move on, just want to make sure everyone can see my slides. Yes, awesome. So we have the Mentimeter. I've never used this, so part of me would rather hear how you're feeling verbally. So I hope, how are we feeling today? Are we feeling good? Are we feeling happy? Are we feeling energized? Are we feeling tired? See that some people are happy without the school. Are we feeling relaxed because of it? I feel happy and excited all the time. So that's something that I really, really very much appreciate and enjoy whenever I have this sort of events. It allows me to connect with the community. So I hope that you're feeling happy and excited as well. Now, when we go into the objectives for this workshop, one of the key things that I want you to, someone's feeling all of the emotions. Okay, I hope those are positive emotions. And if not, we can work through them, and hopefully this workshop can allow you figure out some of the sometimes anxiety we get when we're trying to connect and network with other folks, etc. So some of the objectives of this workshop is, first of all, for you to understand the importance of soft skills in STEM careers, and for you to discover a few new methods and techniques that can help you develop those soft skills, and for you to keep those in mind as you're starting your careers. So the very, very, very first skill that I cannot explain to you how much I wished someone had told me before that would be super useful is time management. I myself, I have ADHD. I identify someone with ADHD. And for me, oh, we have more ADHDers. I love it. And for me, time management was something that I always really, really struggled with. And having to put those little extra habits, if you want to call them, towards manage my time has been something that I have worked on up until today. I continue to work on. So we're going to watch a short video to share a little bit about time management, and we'll share some notes and some learnings afterwards. So be again prepared to interact. Can you hear the audio? Nope. Okay. Because I think I have to stop to share with audio.
Isn't technology wonderful when it works?
I know. I have to say, like, we were getting too lucky with the with Zoom. I feel like with every meeting, there's always going to be either someone who's muted or someone whose audio doesn't work. So here we go. Hopefully this works. Can you hear the audio now? It's great.
It's a bit low, but we
97.
can.
NASA's
Yeah, that's better.
Pathfinder spacecraft landed on the.
Okay, I'll start again.
In the summer of 1997, NASA's Pathfinder spacecraft landed on the surface of Mars and began transmitting incredible, iconic images back to Earth. But several days in, something went terribly wrong. The transmissions stopped. Pathfinder was, in effect, procrastinating, keeping itself fully occupied, but failing to do its most important work. What was going on? There was a bug, it turned out, in its scheduler. Every operating system has something called the scheduler that tells the CPU how long to work on each task before switching and what to switch to. Done right, computers move so fluidly between their various responsibilities, they give the illusion of doing everything simultaneously. But we all know what happens when things go wrong. This should give us, if nothing else, some measure of consolation. Even computers get overwhelmed sometimes. Maybe learning about the computer science of scheduling can give us some ideas about our own human struggles with time. One of the first insights is that all the time you spend prioritizing your work is time you aren't spending doing it. For instance, let's say when you check your inbox, you scan all the messages, choosing which is the most important. Once you've dealt with that one, you repeat. Seems sensible, but there's a problem here. This is what's known as a quadratic time algorithm. With an inbox that's twice as full, these passes will take twice as long, and you'll need to do twice as many of them. This means 4 times the work. The programmers of the operating system Linux encountered a similar problem in 2003. Linux would rank every single one of its tasks in order of importance, and sometimes spent more time ranking tasks than doing them. The programmer's counterintuitive solution was to replace this full ranking with a limited number of priority buckets. The system was less precise about what to do next, but more than made up for it by spending more time making progress. So with your emails, insisting on always doing the very most important thing first could lead to a meltdown. Waking up to an inbox 3 times fuller than normal could take 9 times longer to clear. You'd be better off replying in chronological order or even at random. Surprisingly, sometimes giving up on doing things in the perfect order may be the key to getting them done. Another insight that emerges from computer scheduling has to do with one of the most prevalent features of modern life: interruptions. When a computer goes from one task to another, it has to do what's called a context switch, bookmarking its place in one task, moving old data out of its memory, and new data in. Each of these actions comes at a cost. The insight here is that there's a fundamental trade-off between productivity and responsiveness. Getting serious work done means minimizing context switches. But being responsive means reacting anytime something comes up. These two principles are fundamentally in tension. Recognizing this tension allows us to decide where we want to strike that balance. The obvious solution is to minimize interruptions. The less obvious one is to group them. If no notification or email requires a response more urgently than once an hour, say, then that's exactly how often you should check them. No more. In computer science, this idea goes by the name of interrupt coalescing. Rather than dealing with things as they come up, oh, the mouse was moved, a key was pressed, more of that file downloaded, the system groups these interruptions together based on how long they can afford to wait. In 2013, interrupt coalescing triggered a massive improvement in laptop battery life. This is because deferring interruptions lets a system check everything at once, then quickly re-enter a low-power state. As with computers, so it is with us. Perhaps adopting a similar approach might allow us users to reclaim our own attention and give us back one of the things that feels so rare in modern life: rest. Are you interested in improving your own time and task management skills? If so, we highly recommend you check out Algorithms to Live By: The Computer Science of Human Decisions. You can download an audio version of the book for free at audible.com/TEDEd, and every free trial created encourages Audible to continue supporting TEDEd's nonprofit mission.
Wonderful. So, sorry about that. So I want to hear from you. What were some of the new findings that you got from this video? I can tell you that a lot of the stuff that is mentioned there are things that I have implemented as part of my day-to-day time management, and some of the ideas really worked. Some of them I have had to create a bit of a hybrid of them in order to be able to also prioritize sometimes things that are actually quite time sensitive. But I wonder, what are some of your lessons from this? What are some of the things that you think you could implement perhaps?
I can go for it.
Yes.
Prioritizing. Prioritizing is one of the hardest things for me because I want to do everything and I want to do my best. I want to put, all the effort in everything, which sometimes can be not realistic. So that's kind of the thing I have to work on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel you. I have been that person that says yes to everything and wants to do everything at once. And sometimes I forget that the day only has 24 hours. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? No one. Okay, great. Well, I hope you're having amazing time management skills then. So some of the things, if you are like me and want to learn a little bit more as to how to prioritize some of your time management or some of the things to do, is the first thing is set an agenda. I don't know if any of you ever heard about bullet journaling, using a bullet journal? I use what it's called a bullet journal. I use what it's called a bullet journal. And as part of that bullet journal, what I like to do is every day, I like to look at what my day looks like. And then based on what my day looks like in my agenda, like whether if I have class or I'm teaching a class or have full-time work and how many meetings I have, I like to see what are my areas where I can add some more focused time and work. So I block that time for myself. Ooh, there's a question. Yes, I would love to hear that question.
Yeah, so basically each start of the year I buy a beautiful notebook and I say, every day I'm gonna write down, but I just write for the first week. So how do you keep up with it? And yeah, what motivates you to continue?
I will tell
Writing.
you what kept me up to do it. I actually set an alarm in my phone to block 15 minutes of my day to look at my agenda. And that's kind of what did it. So setting that, to me, I realized that to me what usually happens is that I tend to only work effectively when I build the behavior and when it becomes part of my everyday life. So that's pretty much what I did. I like every day I look at what's on my agenda, I look at what's on my calendar, and then based on that, I use the times that I have free to do some of my writing work, do some of my studying, some of my reading, respond to emails, etc. But every day at 8:45, I get an alarm on my phone telling me it's time to review your agenda. So that extra nudge has really, really helped me. I hope that helps someone else as well. And I agree with you. Finding the right agenda can be a challenge. And also sticking to the agenda can be a challenge as well. So part of what I did as well was get a bullet journal, because a bullet journal just has dots and I get to design it as I want. So if, for example, if there's one week where I am too busy and I'm not getting to do my agenda morning priority, like things, if I miss a week, it doesn't really matter. If I miss a day, it doesn't really matter because I can skip that and it doesn't feel like I left a day empty. It just my agenda continues. So I have found that super helpful as well, being able to design my own agenda, if that makes sense. Another big thing is, for me, as I mentioned, I needed to understand that the best way that things work for me is when I build a habit around things. So learning what are your patterns of productivity really helps as well. I'll give you an example. I work full time, and the way that I do my work, what I do is I actually ask on my work if I could start working at 7 in the morning. I know, bright and early, but to me, I function the best. I've noticed that for me, I function the best bright and early in the morning. I am that person that can wake up early and make a coffee and read a book for 2 hours and then go to work. Or my partner and my husband and I used to wake up and watch one episode of The Office before going to the office. So having those little things in the morning were really helpful for me. And then I realized, what if I move my work hours? If my work allows me to, what if I move my work hours? So I actually got permission and I started working at 7 in the morning, which to me is so great because it allows me to have focused quiet time for 2 hours to work on. And then from 9 to 3 p.m., I get meetings, I get the more active side of my day once I'm already done all my written parts. So that has been super, super helpful to me. So if you know what your patterns are, let's say that for you focusing on work or homework or doing math or writing your English essay works better, let's say around 6 p.m. Make a habit to block time around 6 p.m. to do writing at that time or to do math homework at that time, so that you can understand what are the times that you're the most productive for focus work, and that way tailor to your productivity habits or create those productivity habits. Now, the third thing that I think we all forget about, and I start by myself saying this, it's important to take breaks. So often I have people come and tell me like, oh, you're so hunched working. And then the day after, like my back starts hurting, right? Or sometimes like we just feel overwhelmed with everything that's going on. So it's so important that we schedule breaks. And one of the things that I have found that is helpful when it comes to scheduling breaks, and I'll tell you more about that, is using the Pomodoro technique. So it's working for a certain amount of time and then adding a certain like shorter break and then continuing to work. So let's say that I work for half an hour uninterrupted, and then I put a 10-minute break where I go grab a coffee, walk around, maybe pull my phone and watch some TikToks, like who knows, like something just to kind of relax for about 10 minutes. And then I put another half an hour of continuous uninterrupted work. So putting those sort of breaks really helps you recharge a little bit and be able to refocus. And then the last thing is understanding that no is a full sentence. Not because you feel like there might be space or you can try to squeeze an extra hour of the day. It means that you should be taking more on your plate. Sometimes it's better to do a really great work with one project rather than doing not as great of work with multiple projects. So what I will recommend to you is that if you feel like you're starting to get really tired and you have too much on your plate, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say like, hey, you know what? I love to do this, but unfortunately, I don't have time right now. Or ask for a longer deadline, or ask for a different way to engage that may not take as much of your time. Because in reality, if we're to take care of ourselves, we will not be able to do the fantastic work that we want to do. So it's important to make sure that you take that balance in your life. So now, in terms of apps, one of the things that I mentioned earlier today was using the Pomodoro technique. Someone will have, yeah, absolutely. Well, from my end, Michelle, that's fine. I will let the organizers know. But yeah, thank you for the heads up. Going back to the Pomodoro technique, the Pomodoro technique tells you that, for example, if you're studying or if you are doing any homework or if you are working on a specific project that requires a lot of attention, to break the work into smaller periods of time and schedule breaks in between. Now, if you use the Focus Keeper app, for example, it allows you to put timers for it. So that way you can have the timer, and then when it's like half an hour or an hour, or whichever time you put, it will tell you that, oh, it's time to take a break. And then you can take a break and just continue on with the next item. So those little things can be really, really helpful when you're trying to put your breaks, but also have focused time and not feel super drained and tired at the end. Then the other way that you can do it is using Forest, for example. So Forest allows you to put nudges so that you can ignore your phone. Sometimes we cannot focus on things because we start getting all of those notifications from our phone. Someone commented something on Instagram, someone put a new TikTok, someone sent a new tweet, you got a text message or a WhatsApp, and all of this information does not allow us to pay as much attention as possible. So sometimes blocking that from our phones can be very helpful to reclaim some of that time for productivity or even just for ourselves. So those are some of the recommendations that I will encourage you to look into. As well, look more into bullet journaling. I personally love bullet journaling. I know that it might not work for everyone, but for me, it has worked really fantastically because it's very flexible and allows me to understand a little bit more about all of my to-dos, the things that I have to do, allows me to write down easily and not forget. Another big thing is post-its. I love post-its. I have post-its all over the place. And for me, post-its are also a really simple way to write down. If someone asks me to do something, put it in a post-it, put it on your desk. And that way you know that it's there to be done later on, right? So always write things down. It really, really helps, trust me. Now, the second big thing that I would recommend anyone who is starting their careers, or you're in high school, elementary school, university, starting to develop that sort of network that you will have hopefully for the rest of your careers. I think networking is oftentimes really undermined. We forget that networking has such strong value in your experiences, but it's really what's going to allow you to start building that professional development and starting to build connections with people in different industries and different organizations, different schools, different areas. And it's how you're going to start getting to know about different opportunities. So we are going to do some speed networking. Are we up for that? So what I want you, yes, cool. So I'm going to put you in groups of 2, and I want you to, I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and I want you to talk about the last thing you learned. I want you to introduce yourselves, share something fun about yourself, and like think about what is the last thing you learned. The last thing you learned in the last days, in the last things, or like a cool thing that you learned recently that you're like, you know what, I want to share this with you. Okay, so I will give you 5 minutes, not 3 minutes. I'll give you 5 minutes and we will come back. So I'll put you in breakout rooms or yes, I'll put you in breakout rooms unless you already have previous breakout rooms. And we'll be back at 3:06 of Eastern time. Do I have the ability of doing breakout rooms? I think I do. I do. Perfect. And I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Would you like me to join a room as well?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Enjoy. Yes. You would like to join room 2? That would be awesome. Okay, we'll just wait for everyone else to return and then we can start chatting. Great, welcome back. Now, who would like to share?
I can go first if that's
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead. So what did you learn about each other? Anything surprise you? Did you have anything in common? Any cool thing that you learned?
Yeah, so the host, she learned some things about leadership and that she needed to improve her independent work. She prefers to work in teams, so she thought that as a leader you have also to learn how to work independently. So she's trying to improve on that. Also, I've learned that Kiara have short attention span, so she learned that as a thing about herself, and now she's trying to work with it. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Good, awesome. Hi, Alison. I think the audio is cutting out a little bit.
Allison, if you want, you could type it out in the chat and we could read it out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else wants to share it in the meantime? Share in the meantime. Ella, Kiara, Devin, am I pronouncing? Also, please let me know if I'm mispronouncing any names. Our lovely host, Ella. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I learned that like I have an older sister and another person in our group had a younger brother, and then another person had both a older sister and a younger brother.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool, yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's important to share about what are our relationships at home, what are our dynamics, do we have any siblings? That's really fun stuff. I have 2 siblings. I have 2 younger siblings, a sister and a brother as well, so that's really fun. Allison shared that yes, that she also learned that Ella has an older sister and Devin has a younger brother, and you're in between. Love it. Older sister and younger brother. I am the eldest. Wonderful. Our lovely host, what did you learn today?
I think I came in the middle of what Kauter was saying, but she was mentioning about how important extracurriculars are for university applications. And it was funny how she mentioned that because I was in that place before, like starting to think about university and like what I wanted to do. And no one really told me to like emphasize my extracurriculars or volunteers. All I heard is focus on your grades. Your grades are more important. But in reality, universities are really interested in how well-rounded of a person you are. So I think that was very interesting. And I'm really happy that she realized that early on.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I feel like one of the big things that you learn with extracurricular activities is also how to develop a lot of the stuff that you don't learn in school, a lot of the stuff that you don't learn in university either. So I would certainly encourage you also when you get into university, college, to continue to be involved with your school, with your student body, with as a student leader, or consider doing a work study position or something like that, because those are things that can be super beneficial when it comes to starting to build your network, and also learning about different fields and different dynamics. I can tell you, for instance, I was back in the day, I was the president of the Science Society at my university, and I learned a lot about governance. I learned a lot about how to write a constitution for a society. I learned about student politics. I made a whole bunch of connections. I actually met my husband there and met my first boss there. So those are little things that you can learn from exposing yourself into those sort of activities. And sometimes those connections are connections that you keep forever. So good thing that you're noticing that at such early stages of your career. So awesome. Anyone else before we move forward? Okay, great. Now, when we talk about networking, we really think about networking as a way of building relationships, right? So the first thing is you meet a person. You learn about them, how they work, what they work on, what are the things that they do, what are their likes, what are their dislikes, what are the common things the things that you may have in common. Or sometimes a person might have something or might know something that you don't know and you want to get more exposed to, right? For example, in my case, when I was transitioning from a physics career to an equity, diversity, and inclusion one, networking was key because I wanted to meet people in the industry, people who are doing this work, and being able to connect with folks who might already do the jobs that I wanted to do or the careers that I wanted to do. So getting to learn from them and understand them, it's super important. Key thing, get their contact information. It's always something as simple as like, if someone shares in a slide deck their Twitter handle or their LinkedIn, or you go to an event and you meet a person and you're like, you know what, I think you're great. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Continue that relationship by getting their information, connect with them on LinkedIn or on Instagram, Twitter, get their email, make sure that you're fostering that relationship throughout time. You don't have to be calling everyone every day, but sometimes as simple as if they share a post that you like, giving a like and saying like, hey, this was really insightful, can help people see your interests as well. And by doing that, you will start expanding your network quite a bit, and you'll start seeing your network grow and grow and grow. And it's going to be something very helpful for you. It's also going to be something very helpful for the other folks as well, because you're also helping them expand their network. So a few great tools that can help you start that networking process is creating a LinkedIn profile. So you just came from that LinkedIn session. And I strongly encourage you to build your resume, keep it up to date, connect with people from a broad range of professions that you might be interested on. Even if you don't know the person, you can always, the worst thing you can do is you send an invite and they don't respond. But if they respond to your invite or your follow, it's always nice to send a message. Hey, thanks for the connection. I connected with you because I'm very interested in your field, and I'm a young student or young professional trying to learn more about the field. So I appreciate the connection, or something simple like that, so that the person sees that you're interested in learning more about their experience. LinkedIn is super helpful for that. You don't have to send a message, but sending the message sometimes adds that little extra touch of purpose as to why you're connecting with them. So that can be helpful. Another thing is cold emailing. So if you have someone's email and you're really, really interested in connecting with them, you can just email the person and say something as simple as like, hey, I heard from you, or I learned from you, or I saw that you do this specific work. I am someone who's interested in this field and would love to connect. Do you have time for a virtual coffee chat? Or for an in-person coffee chat, if it's someone that you trust and you can connect in person. Maybe you're in university and it's a graduate student that you want to learn for research purposes, you want to learn what the research is, etc. So sending something as simple as like, hey, I would like to connect and learn more about your experience. I cannot explain to you the number of people who respond positively and are happy to support others in their career journeys. So don't be afraid of just sending a cold email. And then the last one that I did not put here because it's not a tool, it's introduce yourself to people. If you go to a conference, if you go to a talk, if you go to an event, anything that you may like go to and you might be interested in connecting with someone, go and introduce yourself. So I'll give you a simple example. This was like the easiest example. So back when I was in high school, I remember when I was taking chemistry, my chemistry teacher told me that once you get to university, professors don't care as much as high school teachers care about you. And I was told you will be just one of many in a huge lecture hall with hundreds, if not thousands of people, and it's going to be very difficult for a professor to know who you are. So you're not going to really have that connection. And then another thing he said was, and here you even know your principal. And what he says, like, in university, there's almost zero chance that you'll meet even your dean. So dean is the person that runs the faculty. On my first day of the university, literally orientation day, I remember we had the dean of the faculty come and introduce herself to a huge lecture hall filled with a whole bunch of students. We had a whole bunch of professors introduce themselves. We had student leaders introduce themselves. And then at the end of the session, I remember the dean of the faculty and a few professors were standing together, but no one was approaching them. There was no student approaching them. No one knew, like was trying to connect with them or anything. And I went and introduced myself to the dean. I was like, hey, my name is Ana Sofia. I am a new student here. I'm very excited to be joining. It was Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson University. It's like, I'm very excited to be starting my degree here. I was a student leader back in high school. I was the president of the student council. I was the founder of the math clinic. And I'm very, very excited to be starting university here and see what the university has to offer in terms of opportunities. And I remember the dean at that specific moment turned around and introduced me to the associate dean of undergraduate, who then went and introduced me to the president, or the new person who was creating the science society. And then I joined the science society, literally first week of university. Then that's not it. Afterwards, I continued to do a lot of work with the Science Society. I continued to do a lot of work with student leadership, and I got hired at the Career Center as a work study student at the university, which was really fun. I learned how to help students put their resumes together and how to navigate certain careers, etc. And I was tasked with putting together one big event to help science students. And I wanted to bring a cool speaker. I'm like, I want to bring a really cool speaker who studied science, but has done like a wide variety of things with their degrees. And I brought Dr. Roberta Bondar, who is the first Canadian female astronaut. And at first I gave a call to her manager, and I have $200 of budget. And I gave a call to the manager, and I told him, like, hey, I really want to bring Roberta Bondar to give a talk for us. Is that possible? And at first, the first response I got was no. And I'm just like, oh, I would really like to bring her. And they're like, her rate is significantly higher than what you have. And I kept calling and insisting and being like, I'm the president of the Student Society. I work for the Career Center. We have a very small budget, but we would really like to bring her here. She had received an honorary doctorate from the university. So it's like, it would be really, really great to bring her here. So I asked. One day I get a call from the manager being like, guess what? Dr. Roberta Bondar has agreed to come and give the talk at the university. So I was able to bring the first female Canadian astronaut to give a talk to science students, which was super, super, super exciting. And then after that, I got a lot more work experience. The event went fantastically. And when I graduated university, I actually got hired to work with the Dean of the Faculty of Science, who I introduced myself in first day of school, to help her with her equity, diversity, and inclusion portfolio. So what I'm trying to tell you right now is that introducing yourself really pays off, and you don't know how it can help you create other connections and grow your network. And two, asking people for things, it's okay. The worst thing you can get is a no. But if you don't ask, you don't get an answer. So it's worth asking, because maybe you'll be able to build that connection, or be able to learn something from someone, or be able to bring a cool speaker to an event, or meet a cool person and learn from their interactions. Or maybe they might be able to connect you with someone else. But not being afraid of asking or introducing yourself can really, really open doors for you. Now, the third thing that I would recommend to you is to think about communication. So let's watch a short video and see what we learn from this.
Have you ever talked with a friend about a problem, only to realize that he just doesn't seem to grasp why the issue is so important to you? Have you ever presented an idea to a group, and it's met with utter confusion? Or maybe you've been in an argument when the other person suddenly accuses you of not listening to what they're saying at all. What's going on here? The answer is miscommunication, and in some form or another, we've all experienced it. It can lead to confusion, animosity, misunderstanding, or even crashing a multi-million-dollar probe into the surface of Mars. The fact is, even when face-to-face with another person, in the very same room, and speaking the same language, human communication is incredibly complex. But the good news is that a basic understanding of what happens when we communicate can help us prevent miscommunication. For decades, researchers have asked what happens when we communicate. One interpretation, called the transmission model, views communication as a message that moves directly from one person to another, similar to someone tossing a ball and walking away. But in reality, this simplistic model doesn't account for communication's complexity. Enter the transactional model, which acknowledges the many added challenges of communicating. With this model, it's more accurate to think of communication between people as a game of catch. As we communicate our message, we receive feedback from the other party. Through the transaction, we create meaning together. But from this exchange, further complications arise. It's not like the Star Trek universe, where some characters can Vulcan mind meld, fully sharing thoughts and feelings. As humans,
Are people struggling with the audio? Just a quick question before you can hear. Okay. I can send the link as well if anyone wants to watch it on the side. If there's any challenges, let me just share the link. Okay, I'll share the link at the end of this one if that's okay. Just because. Oh, hold on. Actually, no. I can do this right now. So make sure that everyone has the same experience. Sorry about that. There we go. And I'll just keep playing around the time that we were at.
Of catch. As we communicate our message, we receive feedback from the other party. Through the transaction, we create meaning together. But from this exchange, further complications arise. It's not like the Star Trek universe, where some characters can Vulcan mind meld, fully sharing thoughts and feelings. As humans, we can't help but send and receive messages through our own subjective lenses. When communicating, one person expresses her interpretation of a message, and the person she's communicating with hears his own interpretation of that message. Our perceptual filters continually shift meanings and interpretations. Remember that game of catch? Imagine it with a lump of clay. As each person touches it, they shape it to fit their own unique perceptions based on any number of variables, like knowledge or past experience, age, race, gender, ethnicity, religion, or family background. Simultaneously, every person interprets the message they receive based on their relationship with the other person and their unique understanding of the semantics and connotations of the exact words being used. They could also be distracted by other stimuli, such as traffic or a growling stomach. Even emotion might cloud their understanding. And by adding more people into a conversation, each with their own subjectivities, the complexity of communication grows exponentially. So as the lump of clay goes back and forth from one person to another, reworked, reshaped, and always changing, it's no wonder our messages sometimes turn into a mush of miscommunication. But luckily, there are some simple practices that can help us all navigate our daily interactions for better communication. 1. Recognize that passive hearing and active listening are not the same. Engage actively with the verbal and nonverbal feedback of others and adjust your message to facilitate greater understanding. 2. Listen with your eyes and ears, as well as with your gut. Remember that communication is more than just words. 3. Take time to understand as you try to be understood. In the rush to express ourselves, it's easy to forget that communication is a two-way street. Be open to what the other person might say. And finally, 4. Be aware of your personal perceptual filters. Elements of your experience, including your culture, community, and family, influence how you see the world. Say, this is how I see the problem, but how do you see it? Don't assume that your perception is the objective truth. That'll help you work towards sharing a dialogue with others to reach a common understanding together.
Awesome. So now, what are some of the things that you learned from this video? Is there any takeaway that you would like to share? And how can you apply it to a career in STEM? So if you want to go into the sciences, how do you think communication has an effect in the sciences? Did you relate to this? Yes, go ahead.
Go first. So when it comes to teamwork, I think communication is one of the most absolute necessary things that a team should have. Miscommunication can happen a lot, especially if you disagree with another team member on how to approach a problem. So I loved how the last message of the video said you should give the opportunity for another person to express their opinion, and you should take a moment to actually reflect and think about how it can be assessed in this in that situation, and then come to a compromise to avoid any miscommunication or avoid offending another person.
I love it. Yeah, so what you're sharing in diversity, equity, and inclusion, we call that creating psychological safety. So what does that mean? Psychological safety means to create an environment with our team members where everyone feels comfortable making mistakes, sharing their opinions, taking risks as a team, being creative, being innovative, without that fear of judgment or that there are going to be any sort of repercussions. So it takes every single team member to create that psychological safety, and research shows that building psychological safety really improves teams, the team dynamics, and the way that communication is shared, so you produce better outcomes overall. So I love that point. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? One more person. Ella, Kiara, Devin, Allison. Feel like we are nonverbal communicators here. That's fair. That's okay. That works. But anyway, the point is that communication is really, really important. And it's really great for us to start thinking about the fact that active communication and active listening really, really matters rather than passive listening. So I don't know if it ever happens to you that sometimes you're texting and then someone starts talking to you and all of a sudden you're just like, wait, what? What did you say? I didn't hear you. And then the other person gets upset. Oh, you're texting all the time or something like that. It has happened to me. One of the things that I always recommend is the moment that someone's talking to you, if you're don't have your full attention to them, maybe perhaps tell them like, oh, hold on a second, just give me 1 second, let me finish what I am doing, and then I'll turn and listen to you attentively. Or stop what you're doing and turn around and listen to them attentively. That way you're ensuring that you are fully listening to what's happening and there are no miscommunications. So that can be very, very, very helpful. Now, I have an activity for you. So I am going to give you 5 minutes to write one paragraph or one brief paragraph idea statement explaining your favorite science concept, but using only the 100 most common used words in English. So I will share with you the link to this one. Oops, sorry about that. I'll show you the link in the chat. And what I want you to do is by using only the 100 most common used words, you're going to have to explain the concept with very, very common words. So it might be a little bit harder to do so, but it's going to be really fun. So, for example, let's say that your favorite science concept is the Big Bang Theory, or your favorite science concept is talking about velocity, or talking about the cell, or talking about the parts of the cell, you're going to have to use words that are the most common in English language to write that down. So I'm going to send you the list of words right now. Okay. So if you go to that link, you're going to be getting something like this. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So when you go into that one, you're going to click on the 1,000 words, and that's going to take you to what the 1,000 most common words are. And then here in the text editor, you can start writing. So for example, I want to talk about the Big Bang. Big, the word big is there. Bang is there. So the Big Bang. Oh no, the word bang is not permitted. So the big, let's say explosion. Ah, the word explosion is not permitted. What could be another word? The big boom. Oh, the word boom is not permitted. So then I can go to the list of words and see what are other words that can work, that can describe the word bang or boom or explosion. Let's see. The big pop. The word pop exists. So the big pop. And you can start talking about what is the big pop, and then explain to me what the big pop, and I'm hoping that we can hear and understand what it means. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, so from now to 10 to 3:40, and then we're gonna come and share what our different options were. So you can take 5 minutes. And I will get you all to share if possible. If you don't want to share with your audio, feel free to copy and paste what you come up with. What was the topic that we're writing about again? Your favorite science concept. So it can be talking about velocity, it can be talking about parts of the cell, it can be talking about long division, if you really like division, it can be talking about something about space. It can be about how to go to the moon, for example, or anything that you love about science. You can talk to me about the digestive system. You can talk to me about, if you are into quantum mechanics, you can even talk to me about quantum mechanics. So whatever you would like, I'll give you 5 minutes to use the 1,000 most common used words in English to explain that. So 3 more minutes.
Can the sentence like structure like a way because they would be words?
Hey, Allison, sorry, I could not fully hear what you said. Would you mind repeating or putting in the chat? Now, do we need more time or are we good to go? I'll take the silence as good to go unless I hear anyone asking for more time. If you need 5 more minutes, I can give you 5 more minutes.
Can we have a bit more time, please?
Yeah, I'll give you 5 more minutes. Sounds great. And yes, sentence can totally be structured in weird ways. That's totally fair. Okay, 2 more minutes. Yep, 1 sentence is fine, no worries. The words you want to use, you can't. That's fair. 1 more minute, and then I am going to start by sharing mine. I actually did this exercise as we were doing it as well, so I'll share what I did. So I'm taking one for the team and being the first one presenting, if that's okay with everyone. So what I did is I wrote the states of water. And what I said is that water can be wet. I tried to say water can be liquid, but liquid was not a permitted word. So I said water can be wet. And when water is too cold, it becomes hard. Ice was not one of the options, so I just put it becomes hard. When water is hard, you can start warming it up to go back to being wet. And if you continue to warm it up until it is too hot, then it starts disappearing into the air. So I tried to explain how water goes from liquid to solid to gas, and using only the most common words. So anyone wants to share next? Even if it's just 1 sentence, that's fine. Even if it's awkward, that's fine.
I did osmosis. I can put mine in the chat maybe.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
I'll read it. Or if you want to read it, that works too.
Okay, cool. I can just read it. So I said,
Yeah, awesome.
water moving through a wall to make both sides have an even number of things for each part of water. This is
Oh my God, I love that.
made by the different sides. I don't take biology, so I don't know if that's accurate. But that's the best I could come up with.
That was great. That was so great. No, that was so great. I love it. Good job. Good job. Anyone else? Matter is made of tiny things. There are 3 types of matter. When matter is hot, the things inside the thing move fast. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's how it works. Oh, I love it. Wonderful. Thanks, Allison. Anyone else? Qatar, Kiara, Devin, or our lovely host? I'll take 1 more before we go. So I'll explain to you why I'm doing this exercise. The reason why we do this exercise is because science communication is so essential as part of science. Being able to explain difficult concepts in easy, simple words, it's sometimes harder than we think about. And sometimes it's so difficult to explain that. So hold on, let me just, there we go. Sometimes it's so difficult for us to explain difficult concepts into small, simple words that we tend to avoid doing it. Okay, so I got our lovely host shared. The heart is an amazing body part. Imagine that something so small being able to move blood through your entire body. I love it. Using all simple words. Amazing. And then Kiara said the human body. I really like learning about the human body, learning about how each body part helps us keep living and how they work interests me. I think the food goes in one end and comes out of the other part of the human body. Is the funnest to learn. I love it. I love it. Because you're talking about digestion. Like, I understood what you were talking about. You're talking about it comes one way, comes out of the other. And you love to talk about digestion. So that's awesome. Awesome, awesome. So now, thank you so much for sharing. And again, the reason why we do this is because science communication is so important. If you think about the fact that when we went on this pandemic, very few people understood what coronavirus was, for example. And there were scientists really had to make such strong efforts to explain the public, all of the public, what the COVID virus was all about and how it worked. And being able to transmit and share that knowledge with the public is so essential as a scientist, because if people don't understand how science works, then people sometimes can be either afraid or nervous or not want to learn about the science. So COVID was an example of how scientists used great science communication to explain why masks mattered when when the pandemic was starting, why washing your hands matter, why using hand sanitizer matter, why social distancing matter, for example. But that's just one example of the many things that happen in life that we need to use our science communications with. There are times that you're going to have to explain science to children, for example. There are going to times that you're going to have to explain science to researchers. And the way that you communicate it will be very, very different, because a child, for example, might not understand the science in as much detail as a researcher would. So thinking about your different audiences can really, really help you develop strong science communication skills. And thinking about audiences at all ages, from all different backgrounds, can really help strengthen those skills. Again, you will not have to use the 100 most common words on a regular basis, but doing this exercise will help you start getting out of your comfort zone and try to find different creative ways of communicating things. So when you have to give a talk and maybe share information with someone who doesn't know as much about science, you will know how to unpack the concept in terms that they will understand and take what we call the jargon off the conversation. Knowing your audience, when you're thinking about communications, first thing that I recommend is always knowing your audience. Second thing, adapting under the circumstances. So if someone's not understanding something, come up with different terms and different ways to share that knowledge. And third thing is being open-minded. Everyone has different ways of learning. Everyone has different ways of understanding concepts. So be open-minded, try to adapt to their understanding. Does anyone have any other ideas? What are ways that you can communicate cool science? Sometimes drawing can help. Sometimes putting it into art can help. Sometimes creating videos can help. Science communication, we see it in all different cool ways. And it's a really, really good skill that I recommend anyone going into a scientific career thinking about. If you have any other ideas, I would love to see them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. Now, using mind maps. Oh, mind maps are so helpful. I love it. Yeah. Now, another big thing that really helps when it comes to developing our understanding and of soft skills is thinking about our creative thinking and being creative overall. So one of the things that I want you to do, and I'll give you 3 minutes for this, is I'm going to be giving each of you a Jamboard. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. I'm going to put you in 2 teams. So one team is going to go into Jamboard number 1, and then the other one will go into number 2. And what I want you is to split the circles and make each of the circles, draw something fun in each of the circles. Turn the circles into something. It can be a happy face, it can be a flower, it can be creative. Create as many drawings of things that you can within the circles. So I'm going to share the Jamboard right now. And I'm going to put you into 2 groups, and we'll come back in 3 minutes, okay? I'll see you in 3 minutes. And then our lovely host, if you want to go to room number 2, that would be awesome. Ooh, I have 2 people still here. Kotar, are you still here with us?
I don't think they have editing access to.
Mm. Oh, and neither do I. Well, I think. Mm. Okay, I'll just bring everyone back then. Because I'm struggling with this too. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hello, hello, welcome back. So immensely apologize. It seems like we had some technical difficulties with the Jamboard. I am not the owner of the link, so I was not able to give you permission to draw, but I hope you imagine some lovely things that you drew on those circles. And this is an activity that you can do with your colleagues or friends and see how creative you can get. But it's always good to really try to see things outside of the box and see what are different things you can come up with solving different problems in different ways. So my apologies. In terms of just wrapping up our conversation, some of the things that I would recommend you continue to try to develop as part of your professional development and career as you start embracing and looking into what your career is going to look like is to think about your time management, think about networking opportunities and how you're going to network with people, thinking about your communication and your communication with others and how you can foster greater communication and active listening. And how are you going to really foster that creative thinking and thinking outside of the box when you're trying to solve a problem. And these are just a few of the many soft skills that you can develop, but I feel like this can be some of the foundational ones that can really help you start building your portfolio, start building what you want your career to look like. And I hope that after this, I will get some LinkedIn connections from you. I will get some to connect with you and see what are the cool science that you're doing. And hopefully we'll get to connect again in the future. That being said, are there any questions for me before we finish this, Chad? And if you have any questions, you can add me on LinkedIn. My name is Ana Sofia Barrows. Feel free to send me an invite and I'm happy